She almost didn't stop. It was raining hard that evening, the kind of cold, steady rain that makes you want to rush home, lock the door, and forget about the world outside. Emma tightened her grip on the steering wheel as she waited at the red light. That's when she saw him. An older man stood on the corner near a small grocery store, soaked to the bone, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps. God bless." Emma looked away quickly. She had seen signs like that before. We all have. And like most people, she told herself the same thing she always did: I can't help everyone. But something about him felt different. Maybe it was the way he wasn't asking anyone directly. Maybe it was the way he kept trying to keep his sign dry under his thin jacket. The light turned green. Cars behind her honked, but she didn't move. Before we go any further, if stories like this touch your heart and remind you that goodness still exists in this world, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Kindness Story Hub. Like this video and share your thoughts in the comments, because your support helps us share more real stories that inspire kindness across America. Now, let me tell you what happened next. Emma pulled into the grocery store parking lot. She told herself she wasn't going to give him cash. She'd read too many stories online about scams and bad choices. Instead, she walked inside and grabbed a few things: a hot rotisserie chicken, a loaf of bread, bottled water, and a pair of thick wool socks she found near the front aisle. On impulse, she also added a $10 gift card for coffee from the small cafe next door. It wasn't much. Just kindness. When she stepped back outside, the rain had gotten heavier. The man was still there, shoulders hunched, eyes down. She approached him carefully. "Hi," she said softly. "I didn't want to give you cash, but I got you some food." He looked up slowly. His eyes were tired. "But kinda for me?" he asked. She nodded and handed him the bag. He held it like it was fragile glass. "Thank you," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "You have no idea." Emma smiled politely. "It's just a little something. Just kindness." She walked back to her car feeling lighter, almost proud of herself. It felt good to do something small. Something human. She didn't expect to see him again, but 3 days later, she did. Emma worked as a nurse at a local hospital in Ohio. It had been a long shift in the emergency room when one of the paramedics wheeled in a patient on a stretcher, found him near Maple Street. One paramedic said, "Severe cough, possible pneumonia." Emma glanced over and froze. It was him, the same man from the street corner. He looked worse now. Pale. Weak. His clothes were damp again, though this time from sweat, not rain. As the team worked quickly, Emma stepped closer. He opened his eyes briefly. Recognition flickered across his face. "It's you," he whispered. She swallowed. "Yeah. It's me." They admitted him for treatment. The doctors confirmed he had a serious lung infection. If he had waited much longer, it could have turned deadly. Over the next few days, Emma found herself checking on him more than her schedule required. She learned his name was Harold. He had once owned a small auto repair shop. He had a wife. A daughter. A normal life, but 5 years earlier, his wife passed away from cancer. Medical bills piled up. Depression followed. The shop failed. He lost the house. His daughter moved out of state and, after a few painful arguments, stopped calling. "Losing my wife broke something in me," Harold admitted one afternoon, staring out the hospital window. "I just couldn't hold it together anymore." Emma listened quietly. "You know," he said after a pause, "that night in the rain? I was ready to give up." Her heart skipped. "I hadn't eaten in 2 days," he continued. "I was sick already. I thought, maybe this is just how it ends." Emma felt a lump in her throat. "But then you walked up," he said. "You didn't look at me like I was invisible. You didn't judge me. You just cared." She blinked back tears. It was just some food. Harold shook his head slowly. No, he said firmly. It wasn't. He reached toward the small hospital drawer beside his bed and pulled something out. It was the coffee gift card she had given him and used. I was saving this, he said with a faint smile. I told myself I'd use it once I got back on my feet. It reminded me that maybe I wasn't completely forgotten. Emma felt something shift inside her. She had thought it was just kindness. A small, simple act, but to Harold, it had been hope the hospital's social worker got involved. Because Harold now had a medical record and a stable place to stay temporarily, they were able to connect him with a transitional housing program for seniors. They helped him apply for assistance he hadn't known he qualified for before he was discharged. Emma stopped by his room one last time. Harold said, sitting up straighter than she'd ever seen him. I used to fix engines for a living. Maybe I can start small again. Part-time somewhere. I'm not done yet. She smiled. No, you're not. He looked at her seriously. You saved my life. Emma shook her head. The doctors saved your life. He smiled gently. You gave me a reason to let them. A few months passed. Life got busy. Shifts blurred together. Emma sometimes wondered what had happened to Harold. Then one Saturday afternoon, she stopped by the same grocery store, and there he was, but this time, he wasn't standing on the corner. He was in the parking lot wearing a clean jacket and jeans, helping an elderly woman load groceries into her trunk. He looked healthier. Stronger. When he saw Emma, his face lit up. Hey, he called out, walking toward her with a wide grin. She barely recognized him. I got a part-time job at a repair shop, he said proudly. Nothing fancy. But it's honest work. That's amazing, she said, genuinely thrilled. He reached into his pocket and handed her something. It was a small envelope. Inside was a $20 bill and a handwritten note. The note read, for the next person standing in the rain. Emma looked up at him, confused. I want to keep it going, Harold said. What you did for me. I can't repay it. But I can pass it on. Emma felt tears in her eyes again. That night, driving home, she thought about how close she had come to ignoring him. How easily she could have driven through that green light. She had believed she was offering something small, but she had been completely wrong. Kindness isn't small, kindness is powerful, but it's a ripple that moves farther than we can see. It's a spark that lights someone's darkest moment. It's the reminder that even when life falls apart, someone still cares. Weeks later, Emma found herself at another red light. Another rainy evening. Another person holding a cardboard sign. This time, she didn't hesitate, and maybe, somewhere down the line, that person would hand someone else an envelope with a note that read, for the next person standing in the rain. Because that's how change begins, and not with grand speeches. Not with millions of dollars, but with one person choosing to see another. So if you're watching this right now, maybe you've felt invisible before. Maybe you've wondered if anyone notices your struggle. I promise you, your story isn't over, and maybe you're the one with the ability to change someone else's ending. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to care. Emma thought it was just kindness, but she was completely wrong. It was hope. It was dignity. It was a second chance, and it started with one small decision to stop in the rain. If this story moved you, don't just scroll away. Think of one simple act you can do today: a warm meal, a kind word, a listening ear, because somewhere out there, someone is standing in their own kind of rain, and you might be the reason they step back into the light.